In this video, I'll show you a framework that will change the way you look at landing pages forever. This is something I've put together over the last 5 years, and it's a whole new way of approaching what a landing page consists of. But before we do that, why don't we look at some of the current methods people use when explaining landing pages and how to build them. If you Google elements of a landing page or something related to that, you'll see hundreds of articles and images like this, where specific elements like an eye-catching design headline or a call to action button or trust logos are mentioned. Here's another example from a quick Google search. This image shows what they claim are the 10 must-have elements of the best landing pages. And another example, this one mentions testimonials, of course. The results go on and on. They all talk about landing pages as if they just consist of different building blocks or elements, and that if you have them in the right places, you're good to go. And while this is a good starting point for learning about landing pages, I think it's important to go beyond this. So that's why I prefer to teach that instead of elements, you should focus on the questions that your landing page answers for your visitors. Out of all the key takeaways of this entire course, this is by far the most important. You need to focus on the psychology of your visitor, their wants, their needs, and their questions that they subconsciously will be asking themselves as they visit your page. That's how you can really achieve remarkable results. So make sure you write this down. The 7 questions that you should answer for your visitor on your landing page are as follows. Do I quickly understand the big idea? Can it specifically help me? Do I like it? Has it helped others? Do I trust it? Is there something special about it? And can I easily take action now? If this seems confusing, don't worry, it's going to make a lot more sense as we look at some examples in just a few minutes. For now, just know that these are the types of questions a visitor has when they land on your page, whether they know it or not. And the better you can do at getting yeses to these questions, the better your chances are that they will say yes to your main call to action as well. Another way to look at these questions is by their area of focus. Each question is tied to a specific item that needs to be represented on your landing page. They are clarity, relevance, affinity, influence, trust, advantage, and action. To visualize this differently, here's a chart of the 7 questions, along with their core concepts and the main page element they affect. One thing I want to point out here is the very top. See where it says audience alignment and message match? What this means is that you need to start by ensuring that you have the right traffic or visitors coming to your landing page. Otherwise, none of this matters. You get the right traffic by aligning the message in your ad or email to the message on your landing page. That's called message match, and we're going to talk about it in more detail later. As for audience alignment, this simply refers back to the OAT formula, which we talked about, showing the right offer to the right audience at the right time. So make sure you're creating customer avatars for your campaigns and that you're using the stages of awareness to get the timing of your messaging right. That way, your traffic will be in alignment and set up for success. If that's the case, then all you have to do is focus on answering these 7 questions on your landing page, and you'll have a great chance of getting that aligned visitor to convert. Okay, we're now going to look at each of these items in detail using a real-life example. For this part, we'll use this actual page from a brand called Topology. They make custom-made glasses based on your specific face size, shape, and dimensions. You download an app and scan your face, and they custom build a pair of glasses just for you. It's a very revolutionary concept for sure, and they did a great job with their landing page here. So let's go through each of the 7 questions one by one using Topology's page as an example. We'll start with the clarity question. Do I understand the big idea? What is the big idea? Well, if you've ever watched the television show Mad Men, then you know what I'm talking about. Every ad pitch in Mad Men contained a big idea. For example, in this episode shown here, the main character, Don Draper, is pitching a campaign idea to a cigarette company in the 1960s, when this type of advertising was very common. He wants to focus on the fact that the company's cigarettes are toasted. That's what he wants people to remember. These aren't your ordinary cigarettes, they're toasted. So your landing page also needs to have a big idea. And it needs to be something the visitor can grasp within just a few seconds of visiting, without having to scroll too far. Ideally, your big idea should be able to be understood within just 5 seconds from visiting. In the case of Tapology, they do a good job of this in their hero section. Their headline says, "Glasses for every one face, not everyone's face." And they have a very bright, positive image of a woman wearing glasses. You immediately know that this has something to do with glasses, maybe customized glasses made just for me. And you can see that what they want you to do is download their app. It's not the full story, but it's enough to get the big idea. The better you can do at this concept on your landing page, the more likely it is that people will stick around and keep reading. Remember, people don't want to expend a lot of mental energy when they visit your page. They want to quickly get the big idea and get on with it. So make it short and make it direct if possible. Okay, let's look at the second question, which is all about relevance. The question is, can it specifically help me? Now, what I refer to as it, I'm talking about whatever the big idea is, or whatever the product or service is on the page. So can it help me? People want to know right away if you have something that is of value to them. WIFM, or what's in it for me, is a very popular expression among marketers. You need to show people what's in it for them, or else you'll lose them. The better you can do this and tie it back to specific problems that your visitor faces based on your customer avatar, the more relevant the experience becomes. As an example, let's think back to the 3 landing pages I shared early on. First, we had the page from Unbounce, where the offer is to preview the landing page builder. Since this was a click-through page, there isn't a request to buy now or get a free trial immediately. It's simply a request to jump in and see how the product works. In the second example from Digital Marketer, the offer is a free ebook that teaches you about Facebook ads. And in the third example from Hustle Case, the offer is to actually buy the Hustle Case product for your laptop. But it's important to note that the product or service that you're offering is not usually the end result. It's only the means to the end for your visitor. Looking at the example of the free ebook that teaches you about Facebook ads from digitalmarketer.com, this is not the end result. The visitor doesn't want the ebook just to have the ebook. They want what the ebook can give them, which is the knowledge of Facebook ads. And we can even step beyond that and say that the visitor doesn't just want the knowledge, they want the results that they can achieve from that knowledge. They ultimately want to create better Facebook ad campaigns and get better results. We can keep going on and on with this rabbit hole, so I'll stop there. But the point is this: you need to know what the ultimate end goal is for your visitor and know what they want to get out of your offer, and make sure this is mentioned on your page. That's how you'll answer the relevance question: can it help me? To use an example from the Tapology page, here's a section that talks about the features and benefits of the Tapology app. As you can see, they're focusing on the features and benefits of the app. They're not going too far down the rabbit hole just yet, talking about how their glasses will change your life. That's for later. For this part, the offer is to get you to download the app. So the relevance needs to focus on the things that are tied to the app to compel the visitor to download it. But if you look at this section and ask yourself the question, can the app specifically help me? You'll start to see that these bullet points certainly help answer that question. Okay, the third question your visitors will subconsciously ask themselves when visiting your page is, do I like it? I call this the affinity question, and it's probably one of the most difficult to answer. It's not easy getting someone to like something new or unfamiliar, yet that's exactly what we're trying to do. A lot of times people will make a decision if they like a person or company within a fraction of a second of meeting them. In a study by Google, they found that visitors make their first impression of a website or page within 50 milliseconds. So you need to make a great first impression to keep people from bouncing or putting up their guard. One of the best ways to do this is through the visual design of your page. You want your landing page to look pleasing to the eye and to look professional. It needs to be easy to navigate and easy to engage with. It also needs to load fast. If you run into any issues in any of these areas, it could negatively affect how someone perceives your product, service, or brand in just a fraction of a second. An important core concept of the affinity question is user experience, often called UX. User experience, or UX design, is the process of creating products and services that provide meaningful and relevant experiences to the users. And while there are many UX frameworks out there, this is one I like to refer to because of its simplicity. After all, you don't need to be a UX expert to be a great landing page optimizer, but you do need to know enough about it to get by. So this is the basic UX framework. It's broken up into 5 common principles that test the overall user experience of your landing page. For example, is your landing page aesthetically pleasing? Can everyone use it? Does it make their life easier? Is it intuitive? And is it consistent? The design, copy, and interactive elements such as buttons, phone numbers, etc. need to align with these principles in order to create the best user experience possible, and therefore allow the visitor to answer the affinity question with a resounding yes. Going back to our Topology landing page example, their landing page is very well designed with a simple color palette, images that show happy people from their target audience using the product, and a very legible font. Their call to action buttons are clearly defined and stand out from the rest of the page. And when necessary, they use animations and other interactive elements to simplify complex concepts in order to make sure people understand what they're offering and how it works. This is not only a very usable page, but it adheres to the basic UX principles. It's very easy for someone to visit the page and have a high level of affinity towards the brand and towards the product. In other words, they like it. Okay, the 4th question every landing page should answer is, has it helped others? This deals with influence. In other words, does your page convey social proof that lets the visitor put themselves in someone else's shoes and see how their own similar problems can be solved with your product or service? If you're not familiar with social proof, let me give you a quick example. Imagine you're at the restaurant on the left. Nobody is there. Would you eat there? Probably not. Now imagine you walk by the same restaurant and there's a lot of activity. It's not overly crowded. In fact, there's an open table right there in the middle, but it's got some energy in the room. Which scenario would you prefer? Most of us would say the restaurant on the right with some people in it. That's social proof in action. Social proof is a term coined by Robert Cialdini in his 1984 book, Influence. It describes a psychological and social phenomenon wherein people copy the actions of others in an attempt to undertake behavior in a given situation. I highly recommend you check out Influence. You can find a link to the book in the section below. Another way of describing social proof is seen here from Talia Wolf at Get Uplift. She says social proof is when other people see someone like themselves purchasing a product or service, it has a positive influence on their purchasing behaviors. And as an example, here's a page from Basecamp, the popular project management software that is completely dedicated to social proof. Now, if you ask me, they went a little overboard, but the point that they're trying to make is clear. They have a lot of social proof. People love them and love their product. Taking this back to our Topology example, there's an entire section of the page dedicated to social proof. You could see some customer reviews from Trustpilot, a verifiable third party, some testimonial quotes below. They even have an aggregate number of reviews and their overall rating displayed too. And the fact that it's not a perfect 5 stars makes it even more authentic and believable. After all, nobody's perfect. I think this is a great example of the different ways you can display social proof. It doesn't always have to be a testimonial in a box. You can use aggregate social proof too, like they're doing with their Trustpilot rating. There's lots of ways to approach it. The most important thing is just having some form of social proof on the page so that you can answer the influence question. Has it helped others? Moving on to the fifth question, do I trust it? This is obviously all about conveying trust throughout your page. As the old sales saying goes, people buy from those they know, like, and trust. Well, even if what you're selling is free, like a free ebook or lead magnet, it's still very important to build trust with your visitors. If they don't trust that you'll deliver on your promise, then nothing you do or say matters. When we think about trust, there are certain elements that go into it. I sum it up in this trust triangle that I created based off of the trust equation by Charles H. Green. In this simplified diagram, we can see three separate components that build trust: credibility, reliability, and security. Credibility has to do with perception. Do you believe what they are saying? Common ways to build credibility on a landing page include the use of trust indicators of brands, logos, trainings, certifications, clients you've worked with, etc. Reliability has to do with actions. Do you believe that they'll actually deliver? You can increase the perception of reliability by including info or stats on what the brand has already done in the past, maybe by mentioning the number of clients you've worked with. And security refers to the safety or security that we feel when entrusting someone with something. You can increase the perception of security by mentioning things like a money-back guarantee or by improving the overall design of the page to make it more professional. You could also use security seals that talk about security or include phrases that mention how you'll protect the visitor's information. When you have all three of these elements on your page, you have a high likelihood of building trust among your visitor and thereby answering the trust question for them. And this brings you one step closer to the conversion goal. On the Topology page, they're using several different forms of trust indicators. They have some trust logos from notable media sources where they've been featured. They also have a section called Our Promise that mitigates risk and shows that their glasses come with a satisfaction guarantee and a warranty. And lastly, the page is secure, of course, which can be seen in the URL bar. This is super important and something you should set up for every page you build. Make sure it has a valid security certificate. While we won't go into the specifics of how to set up this in this course, I will say that most landing page builders like Unbounce and Instapage include the security certificate for you. If not, you can explore free tools like Let's Encrypt to get it configured on your site. Okay, moving on to the advantage question. This is where we try to answer the question, is there something special about it? In other words, what is unique about our offer or our brand that stands out? What will the visitor remember when comparing us to the competition? The core concept we're talking about here is known as the unfair advantage. Some of the strongest brands have very well-defined unfair advantages. For example, Amazon's unfair advantage in their early days was their significantly lower operating costs due to their lack of brick-and-mortar stores. Hulu's unfair advantage against other streaming services is their exclusive relationships with many major networks. And Dyson's unfair advantage is their Cyclone technology that made their vacuums much more advanced than anything else out there on the market for a very long time. So what's your unique advantage or unfair advantage for your product or service, and how will you relay it on your landing page? That's something to think about. For Topology, their unfair advantage is that thanks to their mobile app, they can custom make glasses that are made for you and you alone, based on over 2,000 measurements of your face. If someone wants the perfect fit with their glasses, it's hard to compete for that buyer if all you offer are standard one size for everyone frames. Okay, we're almost finished here. The last question you'll want to answer on your page is, can I easily take action now? This deals with getting the visitor to take action. After all, that's our end goal, right? We want the visitor to take some predetermined action, whether it be to fill out a form, give us a call, download an ebook, complete a survey, buy a product, or something else. And that's why this is called the action question. The page element we're primarily talking about here with this question is the call to action, which we're going to cover in more detail later on in the course. For now, I want to share an important framework with you called the Fogg behavior model. This was created by a Stanford behavioral scientist named B.J. Fogg. He created this framework to help describe why people take action. He says the Fogg behavioral model shows that three elements must converge at the same moment for a behavior to occur: motivation, ability, and a prompt. When a behavior does not occur, at least one of those three elements is missing. Let me give you a quick example of this in action. Imagine you're in a meeting at work and your phone rings. If you look at the caller ID and you see it's from someone very important for whom you were expecting a call, your motivation to answer the call is very high. However, if you're unable to leave the meeting without getting in trouble, you might not have the ability to answer the call right now. And if your phone was on silent and it was in your pocket, you wouldn't even know that you were getting a call and therefore lacked the prompt. All three of those elements had to collide for you to answer that call. You needed to have the motivation, the ability, and a prompt needed to be present. This framework applies to the landing pages. You need the visitors to want to take action or have high motivation. They need to have the ability to take action, and you do this by having good usability on the page. And they have to have a prompt for what to do next. That's your call to action. If you have these elements of the Fogg behavior model in place, then there's a high likelihood that people will act, especially if you've already answered the other questions they have, which we've already covered. Looking back at the topology page one last time, there are various calls to action throughout. They have an app download button in various formats, and they also have a live chat messaging button from the popular chat tool called Intercom, which many people instantly recognize these days as a quick way to get in contact with a brand. So the prompts are there. And if the rest of the page did its job, the motivation to engage with these prompts already exists at this point too. In terms of ability, again, as long as the page is usable and we're following the rules we outlined earlier regarding user experience, then the ability exists too. So everything's coming together to compel the visitor to take action. So there you have it. We got through the most important part of this course, the 7 questions every landing page should answer. To recap, here they are again. First, the clarity question. Do I quickly understand the big idea? Then the relevance question. Can it specifically help me? Then the affinity question. Do I like it? Then the influence question. Has it helped others? The trust question asks, do I trust it? The advantage question asks, is there something special about it? And the action question asks, can I easily take action now? When you answer all of these questions for your landing page visitor using the core concepts and page elements we talked about, you're setting yourself up for success. Up next, we're going to do a deep dive into marketing psychology in part 3 of this course called The Psychology of Persuasion. I'll see you there. So that brings us to the end of part 2 of this landing page course. I hope you're just beginning to see how important it is to think about landing page optimization in a new light by focusing on the questions behind each and every element on a page. The better you can answer those questions for your visitor, the better your chances are of getting them to take action.